What is up, guys? It is your boy Brandon Groce, self-taught designer, and today we're going to be talking about the web design process. So the reason we're talking about this today is because I get a lot of emails, and especially the type of content that I put out, I always am talking about being a copy designer. To improve your design, copy the top dogs, the better designers out there. Picasso used to copy all the top guys during his time so he could better his skill, and that's exactly what I promote as well. But I also get, DMs on Instagram and emails talking about, Brandon, copying is, up my game in terms of design. But when it comes to actually designing a website from scratch, I don't really know how to approach that. So this is an answer to those questions and those emails. First off, if you guys are new to this channel, my name is Brandon Groce. I'm a self-taught designer, and I work with brands such as Disney, Dannon, and Huggies. So if you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to this channel, because this channel is all about building a brand as a designer and getting paid like you should. So with that said, back into our web design process. The web design process is actually extremely easy. You can copy somebody's process. It's just a step-by-step of how you approach things, so to keep your feet moving than being static. So I'm gonna go over my personal process that I use. 5-step process, and it's very simple. So 1, we're starting off with gathering requirements. It's basically the kickoff meeting between you and your client, and this is the first meeting you're sitting down with your client, whether digitally or in person, and getting to ask all the good and right questions. So for example, what is the goal of your website? What is your intention for this website? What are your competitors? Who are good examples of other websites that you've seen in the market that could fit what exactly you're looking for on your website? Basically asking all the right questions to your client based on what their goals are for their website. Next is to research. After you get all the requirements from the kickoff meeting, you've asked all the right questions. Next is to research based on, the competitors they told you, gave you some examples of the work that they like. Getting all that together and basically just having sit down time and figuring out other things that are connected to what the answers that you got from that kickoff meeting. So finding out how to solve their problems in the best efficient way, to bring them more value in another way. Basically finding answers to asked in the kickoff meeting. Very simple. Number 1 is getting the requirements, asking the right questions. 2, we have our research stage. 3 is design. These are things like early stage wireframes. And in between this 3, so 4 is content, but design, we want to get, sign off on our early stage design, something low fidelity, get sign off on that, and then get some content in there. So context in terms of what's going to be on that page in terms of copy and images. And once we get that, then we can start going higher and higher fidelity in the designs or wireframes. More likely design, because if you get signed off on wireframes, you start getting the content in there and you start pushing for higher fidelity design, starting to wrap up the design process there. Now, once the design process is done, then there's development. You start taking the design and you use things such as Webflow, WordPress, or if you're just a G, you code that shit out. And then after that, it's just, the constant meeting back with the client. Did we meet your requirements? How are we doing? Did we meet your goals, etc.? But that's the whole process. During each one of these stages, you're meeting back and forth with the client to making sure that you've hit exactly what they wanted you to touch on, and you've solved their problems specifically. And of course, development doesn't stop there. You have the iterative process of hopefully working with the client to continuously making this machine that you've built for them better. What is up, guys? So I have to apologize. My battery actually died on me, so I had to recontinue this video at another time when it was charged. So besides my clothes change, let's get back into what we're talking about. So closing out the video, very short video, the 5-step process of how to go about the design process or web design process. 1, the kickoff meeting with your client, getting all their asks, their expectations, their requirements, and at you as a designer asking the right questions to get their expectations out of them, and basically finding through your questions a particular solution that you'll be then, or particular solutions that you will then be researching in step 2, which is research. So in step 2, you're taking their asks as well as the questions you ask them and their answers. You're taking those things, going into research specific solutions for the client. 3 is design. Design, and 4 is content. And more, like I said, there's gonna be a switch between 3 and 4 during this period, because you're gonna start off with whether, wireframes or low fidelity design, getting buy-in on the design, and then pulling in things such as copy, text, content within that design, get that signed off on, and continue on the design process and refining that. So 3 and 4 are very interchangeable. 5 is the development. Very simple, and of course, as we all know as designers, it's the iterative process. Or we should have gotten signed off on everything throughout that entire process, so there should be no question or any surprises for either you or the client. Once the product is built, then you continuously refine that product. So very simple, guys. I just wanted to lay that out for you guys. As we're copying to improve our design, we also need to know a process to copy to help us do our own work. Processes aren't difficult. Those too can be copied, and I really encourage you guys to copy as much as you can, because if you can follow within the footsteps of any top dog, very simple. You just have to go through the motions of doing those things specifically, and also once you start getting into that habit of going through, the right steps, you can then, once you've mastered that process, you can start putting your own twist to it. So with that, guys, very simple. Drop your comments on this process down below. What do you think? Do you have any additions to it? Other than that, guys, Brandon Groce, self-taught designer, out.